today's webinar, Driving Advanced Marketing, Enabling the Business Users with SAP Predictive Analytics. This session will be recorded, and we will send out a link to the recording to everyone who registered within 24 to 48 hours after the presentation. We also have recordings of all previous webinars on our website in the event that you missed any in the past at dunsolutions.com. Also, if you have any questions during today's presentation, we encourage you to submit them, and we'll address as many as we have time for at the end of the presentation. If the question is somewhat complex and we need more time to answer, we do promise to follow up with you for those. So let's take a look at today's agenda. I will begin by doing introduction to Dunn Solutions Group. From there, I'll turn it over to today's presenters, Jose Hernandez, the Director of Analytics here at Dunn Solutions Group, and Francesco Squanci, the Predictive Analytics Lead here at Dunn Solutions. We will begin by discussing Predictive Analytics for all. We will go through a demonstration scenario, and then we'll discuss the benefits of using SAP's Predictive Analytics. So let's begin. Dunn Solutions is a digital commerce and business transformation consultancy focused on delivering velocity to our clients. Velocity is achieved by the combination of both speed and direction. Dunn Solutions helps our clients achieve speed by automating business processes and direction using advanced analytics. Our teams align with organizations to optimize their unique processes and help them discover the most profitable routes to business success. Dunn Solutions has a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions. We are headquartered just outside of Chicago and have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into two practice areas. Our application development solutions feature portals, e-commerce, and content-managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our analytics solutions feature analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouses and data integration. We are authorized SAP, Liferay, and Microsoft training providers and offer classroom, virtual, and custom options. We believe training is important because once we deliver a solution, we want to make sure that those who need it know how to use it and maintain it. Our analytics in the cloud service offerings include data lakes, forecasting models, retail analytics, as well as migration services and a full range of data warehouse services. We are an authorized SAP Gold partner and have been a top-level partner for nearly 20 years. As an SAP authorized training partner, we help companies nationwide maximize their technology investments and offer public, private, virtual, and custom courses. Our public classrooms are located in Minneapolis and Raleigh. Please contact us for any SAP training needs your company may have. Thank you for allowing me to introduce you to Dunn Solutions. I will now turn over the presentation to Jose Hernandez. Welcome, Jose.
Thanks, Megan. So, all right, as Megan mentioned, we are going to do a little discussion and lecture up front, but don't worry, I'll try to keep it short because I'm sure everyone wants to dive into the actual action in our demonstration scenario. So really, this presentation is about predictive analytics for all. And I first want to chat about trends in advanced analytics. And some of this may not be a mystery to you, and you may be very much aware. But the role of analytics is changing quite rapidly. And part of that has to do with the massive amounts of information and data that we have today compared to what we had before. So it's not just the structured data that we had in our transactional systems, but through all the social media and all the information that we're getting from smart devices and the Internet of Things, there is tons of data that we can use to gain insight into what's going on within our organization. Problem is, there's tons of data that we're getting to gain this insight. So as we're getting all this data, more than we've ever had before, we are also in a position where we have to make business decisions even faster than ever. Some business decisions are being made in real time. If anyone's ever gone, and I'm sure you have, to Amazon or other e-commerce sites, you've noticed that in real time, they're making recommendations to you. So they're basically taking tons of information that's coming from a variety of places, demographic data, your activity on the internet, and making decisions of what to show you to try to cross-sell you and upsell you. And this is happening in real time, and it's happening with predictive analytics. Now what's happening, as you know, your organization isn't full of data scientists. So there's this gap that's occurring between the traditional analysts and these predictive analytics needs. And that gap is just widening more and more. So these trends are pointing to a need for automated modeling and automated tools so that we can, number one, make the job of a data scientist easier. But today's presentation isn't about them. Today's presentation is about enabling the business analyst to be able to use predictive analytics, and we're going to show you how that can happen today. So as we discuss, within an organization, there are many types of analysts. You've got your business analysts, your data analysts, and your BI analysts. And as I've said, they have more information than ever before, and they're getting inundated with information. And the idea is, you know, how can I look at all this data and actually make some decisions or figure out something that I need to do within my organization to improve a business process, to do something better, to do something faster. So traditional BI techniques allow me the ability to look at historical data, and it's typically structured historical data, so that I can do some slicing and dicing and kind of take a look at, so what's happened in the past. But it really doesn't help me much for what I might want to do looking forward. So how could I possibly accomplish that? The other thing that I need to worry about that is true is not all my data is structured data. There's a ton of semi-structured and unstructured data, and good luck trying to slice and dice through that. Just in quantity alone, let alone the fact that there isn't a schema on top of this data, makes it very challenging to do so. So what I want to do before we dive any further is kind of take a look at the analytics maturity curve, the analytics maturity model, whichever name you want to give it, and take a look at what I've briefly mentioned, descriptive analytics. And descriptive analytics is traditionally the ability to look at my data of things that have happened in the past, and typically structured data from a transactional environment. And that information may have gotten moved into a data warehouse or may live inside of those transactional systems. But the idea is that I could look at that data and I can slice and dice through it, and I could do ad hoc analysis and OLAP type of analysis so that I have a sense of what happened. And what happened basically is past tense. And that's typically what the traditional descriptive analytics allows me to do. Now the problem is that what happened in the past isn't really going to help me with what's happening in the future. And in order for me to get a move on that kind of thing, I need to move to predictive analytics. And what predictive analytics is that next step in the analytics maturity curve, where instead of just looking at that historical data for slicing and dicing, I look at that historical data so that I can create basically some predictive analytics models that allow me to look at patterns of things that have happened so that I can explain why something occurred, and even more so that I could potentially look at that pattern and basically provide a mathematical model that would let me put in new data and forecast what would potentially happen in the future. And my little graphic that I have above started out with that rear view mirror where I'm looking in the past. Imagine if that rear view mirror had a navigation system embedded in it where it can give me some information about traffic and suggested routes and things that I can do moving forward. So now my rear view mirror becomes a little more powerful because I could use that advanced analytics to give me some insight into what's going to happen as I move forward. By the way, this is actually a product. There's a URL at the bottom of the slide. If you're interested in buying this product for your car, it is a rear view mirror with an embedded navigation system. So if anyone wants to look into that, by all means do so. It looks pretty cool. All right, so now we talked about why we need predictive analytics. I just want to mention a few areas of where predictive analytics can help. And you may already be doing some of this stuff, but if you consider the area of CRM or customer relationship management, I can use predictive analytics to help reduce churn, to help cross and upsell the products that I might have, to do various marketing campaigns like win-back campaigns and customer segmentation, a variety of things that I can do with predictive in terms of my customers. In terms of risk, I can go ahead, and this happens today, and it happens all the time, and your organization might be doing this, but credit scoring and compliance and maybe even detecting crime and terrorism. Operations, there's tons of uses of predictive analytics in operations. from key performance indicator forecasting to anomaly detection to usage forecasting and price optimization. And we also have fraud, so we can use predictive analytics to detect fraud, whether it's credit card fraud or money laundering, or even insurance fraud. There are patterns that are in there that we can certainly use predictive analytics to detect. And imagine instead of going by gut feel, I can actually use some data science in order to predict these things. So in order to create these predictive models, a data scientist actually goes through a journey, and it's quite the fun journey. And this highly skilled individual has to use not just what they may have picked up as they got their degrees in school, but also vast experiences in creating these models. So here's kind of what happens. First thing I do is I figure out, well, what's the problem that I'm trying to solve? What is it that I'm trying to get a handle on and predict into the future? And so once I understand that problem, the next thing I need to do is to identify, well, what data do I have? And from that data that I have, what variables should I be using in order to try to build this model? Now, the data that we have in our systems typically isn't in a form that the data scientist likes. So the data scientist spends a lot of time and a lot of energy in preparing that data, basically taking it from its current forms where it may live in these various systems and bring it in, do some cleansing of the data, do some transformation and integration of the data. Sometimes the data lives in a data warehouse, and some of this has already been done, but it's typically not the case that the data shows up into the data scientist's box ready for them to use. So there's a lot of data prep work that goes on. So once the data has been prepared, they can go into the job of building that model, and this is where art and science meet, and they go through efforts of determining, depending on what they're trying to solve, they use various algorithms, and they keep looking at what variables they're using. They build a model, they test that model to see if it's actually working, its robustness, and so on. And this typically happens in many iterations and can take a long time, weeks and months potentially, to build a very good, robust model. Once the model is built and output is coming out from that model, we then have to understand, well, how can I implement this output into my activity within my operations and go ahead and apply it. That's the journey that a data scientist lives. And you can imagine if you're a BI person or a business analyst, how could you possibly do this? Well, the expectation isn't that you can't do this. You basically are educated and trained to do something different. This is what the data scientist does. Certainly, what you do is a slightly different task. However, having this power in your hands would be very, very beneficial. And so how can we possibly do that? What if I take all those activities that the data scientist does and condense it, instead of weeks, into hours through software and software automation? If I were able to do that, if I can have software do the vast majority of this work, I certainly could potentially put the hands of predictive analytics into my various analysts. And in doing so, then have some software generate some models that could then be, the results can be taken, understood, and applied. Now, I do want to caution, and I do want to say, I have many data scientists. I work with many data scientists. I'm not saying that software is replacing a data scientist. However, through software, I can get good enough models into the hands of my analysts so that they can make smarter decisions. So it may not be as good a model as that data scientist could produce over various weeks, and some models do require that attention. But imagine if I can give insight into my business users so that they can make smarter decisions than they're making today, which might be based on gut feel and historical ideas as to how things should be. And that's the idea of what we're trying to do here. We want to give an additional set of tools to those analysts so that they can do this. Now, how do I do this? I do this with SAP's Predictive Analytics. And SAP's Predictive Analytics has two major components that I would put in the hands of my analysts. One is the module that allows me to prep and manage data. It's a built-in profiling tool. I feed it a bunch of data. It shows me nuances in the data, anomalies in the data, and so on. And it gives me the ability to do some cleansing and transformation of the data, along with a bunch of automated tools in order to help me do that. And then I have the automated modeler, which once I've prepared that data, I can go ahead and create these models. So basically, my data prep as I've mentioned already, can basically help me import data and do that profiling and that cleansing and presentation. Now, once I have that and I go into my modeler, I have the ability to build certain types of models, and I can do classification, regression modeling, clustering modeling, time series forecast, and association rules. Now, you don't have to be a data scientist, but one thing that you will have to educate yourself on is what these types of models can do for you, and you basically pick the right type of model for the job at hand. And that's something that we can certainly help you understand when you're using this. So now that I've got this tool in the hands of my business analysts, what I can basically do here is let them have at their data. They know their data very well, and they could do things like use regression classification models to identify customers that may respond favorably to offers, or I can do segmentation clustering models to show characteristics of customers that might be interested in my products. And you know what? Actually seeing this in action, and the picture is always worth 1,000 words. So instead of me yapping more about this, I think what might be a good idea if I turn this over to Francesco so that he can walk you through a scenario and a presentation where we'll see some business users actually use this tool in action. And so, Francesco, all I need to do here is switch over and give you the presentation, which just give me a second here and I will do so. And I will click on here and give you control. And there we are. We are seeing your screen. Wonderful. Francesco, take it away. Oh, that's a challenge. I switched you too soon. Sorry, guys, that was my fault. There's a few slides that Francesco wants to go through before we do this. Hopefully, yeah, here we go. There you go.
All right, thank you, Jose. So today, for the demonstration, we're going to talk about Acme. Acme is the company that provides lawn services to its customers nationwide. And with mosquito season approaching, they are trying to cross-sell a $29.99 mosquito defense treatment to their existing customers. Now, this is a huge company. They have a huge customer base of 750,000 customers. Now, they only have a budget of $100,000, so at most, since each piece of mail is 50 cents, at most they can reach 200,000 customers. Now, the marketing department has everything ready. Everything is set to go. The only question that remains unanswered is, who should we target? Well, they're not really sure how to go about this, but they asked their 3 internal consultants, also known as the 3 Marketeers, to come up with strategy. And they give each one of them $33,000 to come up with a strategy to target the right people.
Okay, very good. Francesco, before we go further, I want to warn people, do not invest in this company. It is fictitious. It is a simulated company for the purpose of this demonstration. So while you'll see that they may end up making a lot of money on these mosquito abatement services, they don't really exist.
So, and here we meet the 3 Marketeers. So we have Random Joe that gets a $33,000 budget, Overzealous Oliver, and Clever Clive.
Right, so I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, really. So Joe has a theory. So he believes that customers are not really that different. There are not enough differences among customers, and any one customer is just as likely to respond as the next one. So let's not waste any time. Joe gets his money. He takes the $33,000. He selects 66,000 people at random from the existing pool of 750,000 clients, and he gives the list to the marketing department. Done.
All right. Joe's off on vacation after this, I guess.
Off the hook. Now, Oliver, well, he also believes that there are not differences among customers. However, he thinks that the key to convincing people to buy is to hit them with multiple offers. So not just one piece of mail, but many pieces of mail until they get to buy. So they need to be reminded. So Oliver also selects people at random, but only 22,000 people. and he gives the list to the marketing department. But he also recommends that each person be sent 3 pieces of mail within a 2-week period. Finally, we have Clive. Now, Clive is not so convinced that every customer is the same. In fact, he thinks that some customers might share common traits, and if he can uncover the common traits, then he can profile them, and he can profile the customers that are most likely to respond. Now, how can he do that? Well, he could build a predictive model, but he knows that it takes weeks. So, and plus, Clive is not necessarily a data scientist. He knows the data, and he knows what he wants to accomplish, but he doesn't necessarily know the algorithms. So what can he do with only 1 week to go? Well, Clive decides to use SAP Predictive Analytics to maximize his budget. All right, so let's see what Clive does. Clive collects data on 4,500 customers that had been previously targeted during a previous campaign. Now, the data include a target variable, which means it's the variable that tells you whether or not a customer had responded, had purchased during the previous campaign, and a lot of demographics variables, such as age, the loan size, the number of calls to the customer center, and so forth. Now, he loads everything into SAP, and SAP uses 75% of the data to train the model, so to build the model, and then 25% of the remaining data to validate the goodness of that model.
Okay. SAP Predictive Analytics.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Now, doing better than random. Now, Clive could have gone the random route. Joe did. Oliver did. So why not? What could he have expected if he had gone that route? Well, let's say that we could divide our customer base, 750,000 people, into 20 buckets of approximately the same size. And let's say that we could target all of them. What could we expect? Well, we could expect approximately the same number of buyers in each bucket. So if we have 20 buckets, we would expect about 5% of the buyers to be in bucket 1. Then by the time we get to bucket 2, we would have an additional 5%, which means 10%, bucket 3, 15%, and so forth. Hence, you have this line. By the time that you get to the last bucket, then you have targeted all the people, and all the people that wanted to buy at this point, they have bought. But we only have $33,000, which means we can only target 66,000 people, or approximately 9% of the population. That means that we can only target 9% of the people. We can expect approximately 9% of the buyers to detect 9% of the buyers.
All right. Not a very good number, but okay, it's better than 0, I guess.
Better than nothing.
So now,
but Clive decides to go the other route. He decides to go the predictive route. So let's see how Clive does it.
And this time I will turn it over to Francesco so that he can demonstrate the actual tool.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, Clive knows his data, and he knows what he wants to do. He just needs the right tool to get to that point. Now, what he does, he creates this model, and he imports everything into SAP. So the 4,500 customers that were targeted during the previous campaign are in a file, and this file is imported into SAP Predictive Analytics. Here is where he can explore the file and make sure that everything is the way he wants it to be. So with the click of a button, he can go to setting up the model. Now, what do we want to predict? Well, we want to predict whether a person is going to purchase, yes or no. So that's really our variable of interest. Now, in addition to that, all these variables can have predictive power, except maybe for customer ID. Customer ID is just a unique identifier. We don't want that, so we are going to exclude that. Now, with this being said, a click of a button again, we're going to move to the next one. Now, SAP is a very flexible and very powerful software that enables the user to auto-select the variable. So basically, SAP will do all the heavy lifting. It can select only the variables that are most significant. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to uncheck this button as I have already selected all the variables that I want to show. So once again, a click of the button, and voila, the model is generated. Now, this screen is very important because it shows two very important things. So it shows that in the file, we had 4,500 people, and that about 16% of them purchased. So they made a purchase. Now, it also shows that the model would have predicted 61% of the people. Is that enough? Well, for sure. All you have to do is to compare 61 to 16. That's almost 4 times as many people. Once again, click of a button. There's a lot of insights that SAP will give you. Now, some of them, we could see the contribution by variable. Let's see, we want to see what is the biggest contributor to the model. Well, whether or not a person is a homeowner is the biggest factor, the biggest contributor. Time at the address is also an important one, and we could click on that one, and we could see that people that have been at the same address for a short period of time, they're more likely to buy, whereas people that have been at the same address for many years are less likely to buy. So these are very powerful insights that we can get by just running the model. But what we want to show right now is really how powerful SAP is and how fast I can score the remaining 745,000 customers.
All right, Francesco, before you move forward, so what I just did is I took that old historical data and I ran it through SAP Predictive Analytics, and so how did it know that the model worked or whatever? What did it do with that data? Was all the data used for training, or was some of that data?
No, absolutely. So the automated mode of SAP Predictive Analytics will split the data. 75% of the data will be used to build the model, to train the model. And 25% will be used to see if the model actually predicts. So it will be used to validate.
Okay, very good. So now, is that 75% a magical number? Could it be a different number?
So that's a very good question, Jose. In automated mode, SAP will decide 75-25. But in expert mode, which you will cover later in the presentation, the user will be able to select maybe 80% or a custom split.
Okay. So we have a model, and now we have my 750,000 customers, and so now how do I figure, using that, how do I figure out which ones I should?
Great. So now we have the model has been trained. All you have to do is to apply it to the remaining customers. So that's what we're doing right here. All we need is to make sure that we select all the customers that we want to score. So these are the remaining 750,000 customers. We want to make sure that we select at least the unique identifier. We want to make sure that we know who we need to send the offer to. We just click on OK, and we give the file, the output file, a name. I named it target, and then we just click on apply. Now, I'm not even going to move away from the screen because I want to show you how powerful this is. In only 20 seconds, we're going to be able to score the remaining 745,000 customers. That's it. That's done. So if I were to go to the folder that I selected, this is the file, but I can actually show it to you in preview mode right here. So now we have the customers, all the other customers, all the remaining customers. They have a unique identifier, so I know who's who, and they have a score. All I have to do is to sort them from the highest score to the lowest score and just start targeting them until I have exhausted my budget.
All right, very good. A couple things to keep in mind here that I want to point out. Your data doesn't have to come from a CSV file. You can actually point Predictive Analytics to a variety of data sources, and certainly the output file doesn't have to be a file itself. You could write back to a given database.
Correct.
So once you're doing this, keep in mind that you can go after data directly in a database and write back directly to a database. So that's pretty cool. All right.
Okay, so back to the presentation. Let's see what happened.
All right, very good. Let me switch presenters again. Make it me, and I will share my screen in 1 second here. Let me go back into presentation mode. And there we go. All right, Francesco, thank you for that demonstration. Now, why don't we review what happened with all of our 3 marketeers?
Absolutely. So, do we remember random? So Clive did not go random, but had it done that, he could have expected approximately 9% of the responders. But now we can see that in the next slide, because he created a model, he was actually able to target only 9% of the population, but to detect 36% of the people, of the buyers, and that's 4 times better than random selection.
Okay. One thing to keep in mind, folks, that while we have these graphs and such on a PowerPoint presentation, the Predictive Analytics generates all these graphs for you as well, and you can access them through the application itself. So
obviously, Clive is very happy with the results. He scored the remaining 745,000 customers, and every customer is assigned a score. He sorts them from the highest score to the lowest score, selects the highest 66,000 prospects, and he gives the list to the marketing department. Now, at this point, 2 months later, the results are in. Let's see how everybody did. So, Random Joe did fairly well. Well, he had $33,000. He spent the entire budget. He got a 16% response rate, about 10,000 sales. Revenue was around $316,000, and profit was $283,000. So Joe was profitable, and 60% is a very good return rate. However, Joe did not do much better than the previous campaign, and that's what you would expect at Random. Whatever happened in the past, it's likely to happen in the future. Not much to say about that. Oliver got slightly better results. He got a 17% response rate, which is about 11,000 sales. Now, he did better. However, there is a hidden cost. About 3,000 customers called and asked to be removed from the database. So it means that these customers cannot be targeted for future campaigns.
Why did these 3,000 people complain?
Well, too many pieces of mail, junk mail. Do not target me. Do not call me. Remove me from your database. So these people, the company will not be able to target these people in future email campaigns, direct mail campaigns, and so forth. So this has a hidden cost, and it has to be estimated somehow, and the company estimated it to be around $38,000. So the total cost of the campaign of the strategy for Oliver was around $71,000. So although he made more money, $36,000, profit was actually lower than Joe's strategy. Okay. So he did not outperform Random. He did not outperform the previous campaign. In fact, so far, this is the worst of the 2 strategies.
Okay, now, and we're not, just to be clear, we're not saying that these customers left. They simply didn't want to hear any more about cross-selling opportunities or upselling opportunities.
And there is a hidden cost that has to be estimated there.
All right. Well. And
Clive also spent the entire budget, $33,000, and he also targeted 9% of the population. However, because he was able to target only the people that were most likely to respond, he got a huge response rate of 61%, which is about 40,000 purchases. Now, revenue was around 1.2 million, and profit was 1.17. So obviously, having a model allowed Clive to perform 4 times as well as Joe and Oliver.
By the way, folks, just so you know, we kept these numbers relatively simple and kept the business complexity. We simply compared the cost of the campaign itself, not the operational costs and so on, but simply just to show you the deltas in the different approaches. And you can see by targeting the right people that we actually get a much better return on the money that we spend in order to target these folks. So that's pretty cool.
So how well did Clive do? Well, obviously, he was the winner. $1.17 million in profit. He was the clear champion.
In revenue.
In revenue.
Yes.
Now, but there's also something else. Another important point is that had the company given Clive the entire budget, he could have made an additional $1.6 million in revenue. So there is an opportunity cost right there for not giving him the entire budget of around 1.1 million. So clearly, what this explains, what this shows is that using SAP Predictive Analytics is a huge return on investment, a huge potential return on investment. You do not have to be a data scientist to use it. All you have to do is to know your data and to know what you want to achieve.
Very good. That's actually a very powerful message, because really with a little bit of training and a little bit of help, I can put this kind of power in the hands of a variety of analysts doing a variety of things, and we can basically go through the same types of steps. And while yes, in this demonstration it's a little bit oversimplified, it's just to give you a sense of what the basic steps are in order to do this. So you can see it's certainly doable as long as you have a tool like SAP's Predictive Analytics in automated mode. So with that said, I want to quickly wrap this up with revisiting a few of the concepts here. And so in terms of doing predictive analytics for the business analyst, the BI person, SAP's Predictive Analytics does give them a lot of power, and it gives any organization the ability to maximize the performance of almost any process. If there's someone within your organization that understands the data and understands how the process works, there are many ways that you can apply predictive analytics in order to do that. And you can see that we can build some pretty decent models without the need of a data scientist. Now, I will say this again. I'm not saying that we're replacing a data scientist with this tool, but I'm giving data science-like powers to analysts. If there are processes within the organization that are very critical and require very fine-tuning because of the potential benefit of just a few points in improvement in the model, certainly I would use my data scientist in order to do that. Also, as you saw, we created a model in a few seconds, but really if you incorporate a little bit of the data prep work and some of the understanding of what's going on, an analyst could create very robust models in a matter of days. So it is a very powerful tool. Now, the predictive analytics is just one component in a suite of predictive analytics components within the SAP tool set. And predictive analytics works very well with Model Factory. SAP's Model Factory basically allows you to operationalize and manage thousands of models. So it's kind of, you saw us doing this with one model. Imagine now if you've got a bunch of analysts running around creating models, you want to run these models in an automated fashion or schedule them with SAP's Model Factory, you can certainly do that. And there's a lot to be said here for a part of the tool that we didn't talk about, and I'll just give you a little glimpse into that. There is a component of SAP's Predictive Analytics that is intended for a more data science-like person. It's called Expert Mode, and it does have more advanced capabilities. So the SAP's Predictive Analytics is a tool that can be used by all users, and when I say all users, I mean the analysts and experts. The automated modeler is the tool that analysts would use, and the expert analytics tool is the tool that a data scientist could use. So within the same tool set, there are features that can complement both. And expert analytics basically as you can see here from this one screenshot, and we will do a future presentation on expert analytics, gives a data scientist the ability to basically create a pipeline and data flow of how data might move through different algorithms and different steps and so on to build more complex models and basically more elaborate schemes. So I want to revisit the concept of our analytics maturity model, and so we just walked through and showed you how we can put predictive analytics in the hands of a business analyst, thus moving them up that maturity scale. But I also want to introduce one other concept here. Now imagine that my navigation rear view mirror here were even a little smarter, and you can certainly imagine this because navigation systems do this today. What if these systems could also tell me and make recommendations as to which path I should take to either reduce the number of miles that I'm traveling or to reduce the time to get somewhere? And obviously, we know that this happens today, and these systems are using a technique called prescriptive analytics. And in prescriptive analytics, what we're doing is we're taking these models that we've created and we're running data through them, oftentimes in real time, and actually recommending or taking action upon that data. So just like my navigation system that'll make recommendations about what route I should take, if you think about an autonomous car, that autonomous car might actually invoke the shorter route without me even having to touch it. So the step beyond predictive analytics is prescriptive analytics. And this is something that you can also incorporate within your organization. Imagine embedding into systems predictive models that will do things, for example, as give the price that a product should be sold at for a particular customer in real time. That would be prescriptive analytics. All right, so that just about comes to the end of our presentation today. Francesco, thank you very much for that demonstration. And I wanted to close this off by saying that if you're not already doing it, your organization needs to do advanced analytics. And even if you're putting your toe in the water, I wanted to show you that through some software like SAP's Predictive Analytics, you could put this power into the hands of your business user. There's simply too much data, not enough time, and too many gut feel decisions being made. If you put this power into the hands of folks that are making decisions, you're going to get smarter choices being made. Now, just having the software isn't enough. However, you can engage with Dunn Solutions Group so that we can show you how to incorporate this software and use it within your environment today. So if you want to reach out to us and we can talk about how we can incorporate these various tools in order to do something a little bit better within your organization, we certainly can do that. And we do have a program where we do a 2-week pilot project where we can go ahead and identify a particular need that you might have and go and use predictive analytics with that data set and figure out a way that you can make smarter decisions. So if you're interested in this, by all means, please reach out to us at info@dunnsolutions.com. And I think we will open it up to see if there's any questions out there. Megan, how should they ask us questions?
Please type that into the chat box in your GoToWebinar window.
All right, let's see if we get any questions in here.
If not, thank you all for attending today. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you at future webinars. We'll make sure that you also receive any other Predictive Analytics webinar invites as well. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Jose and Francesco, for your insightful presentation.
Thank you, and we look forward to the next one, which will be probably coming out in a few short weeks, I suspect.
Yeah. And we're going to wait around for a few minutes if you all decide you do have any questions, but if not, see you later.